Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Grebner Show. This is Scott Kerker, along with Metamore head coach Jared Grebner. Coach, you head into the second season. You got an incredibly exciting game last week against Dunlap. You came back and won that game 26-21 in just probably one of the most exciting football games played at Metamore in a long, long time. It's nice to win those really exciting games, but you know, those are the type of games that kind of catapult teams. You know, when you make long runs, you'll be able to look back and say that might have been what spearheaded that, is when you can play a really good team, and Dunlap was a very good team, and you can come out on top. That can be a very special game, and you can kind of pinpoint and say that's the game that got us to where we are today. And hopefully you'll be able to say that a few weeks down the road.
Yep. Hopefully, it's a game that gives you a little confidence boost. Because going into the playoffs, you need to be tested like that. You need to have those types of games. They're a really good team, playoff team, and through the course of the game, they threw some haymakers and connected. We threw some haymakers and connected, and so it was a back and forth game. We're fortunate to come out on top. Sometimes you got to create your own luck through hard work. Through just playing to the whistle and stuff like that. But overall, it was a team win, and that can catapult a team and get some nice momentum going into the postseason.
When you look at that game, and I always like to break things down into groups of three, and I thought there were three big plays for you. I thought one of them was on defense and two of them were on offense, and I thought the fact that the series, they intercepted the ball on our first series. I believe it was the third play of the game. Kid just made a really nice play and got it down to about the 1 yard line, and they scored, go up 7-0. Your kids shook that off and came right back down and scored. And I thought Nick Rhodes did an outstanding job of not panicking, not getting down. He came right back out, short memory, and led your offense right down the field and scored. The other thing that I thought was really big was you had just called a timeout, and they ran kind of a wheel route with their running back, and Cam Nichols came up with a big interception. They were on about I think he intercepted it on about the 15, 16 yard line, something like that. That was a big play. And then I thought the other big play was the game-winning touchdown by Nick Rhodes. A lot of people say that was a lucky play. We fell behind 7-0 in a state championship game on a very similar play. So yeah. I think karma comes back a little bit.
it all balances out eventually. But yeah, you're right. Those were all very key plays of the game. It was a good sign of maturity by our team. On the third play of the game, we throw that pick. One play later, they go in and score. We were able to drive the ball down the field again, and got actually stuffed on 4th and 2. Down around the 15-yard line or so. And then, so they take over, and we forced a 3-and-out in the punt. And so when that happened, something went awry with their punt, maybe a little miscommunication or something there, and we ended up recovering a fumble right there where it laid. And so we were able to recover the ball, and this time we were able to finish and punch it in and take an 8-7 lead.
Yes.
And that was kind of how the game was. It was kind of back and forth, but our kids never blinked. And that's a tribute to our senior leadership. You talked about that last week going into big games. The senior leadership is so important. And, we go as those seniors go. And not one of them blinked. They just said, all right, let's just set the ball down and let's keep playing. And they did play in and play out. And they said, all right, we're going to have some bad plays. We're going to have some good plays, and we just got to keep rolling with it. Next play. And I thought both defenses, ours and Dunlap's, we had some moments where we bent, but we didn't break. I think both teams were able to sometimes march the ball, and it kind of came down to the red zone. You just mentioned Cam making a big play in the red zone. Our offense at the end with the minute 27 on that, when the ball squirted out from Jadon, Nick had the wherewithal to pick that ball up and keep going because no whistle was blown. And
No whistle was
just keep
blown.
playing to the whistle. And so when you have things like that, and it's just who can capitalize and seize the moment when it's available.
And I don't think you could talk about big plays, and I talked about the 3 big plays, but there was another big play. There was a fourth that was really big, and that was at the end of the game, and your son Avery made a really big play. They completed a pass at about the 3-yard line with 7 seconds to go in the game. They had no timeouts, and he grabbed, I think it was Gabe Munoz, I believe.
Correct.
He grabbed him, kept him from getting out of bounds. And it was a pretty good dogfight. And then he got some help from some more Metamore players, and time ran out and we won the ball game. But that was a really, really smart play on his part.
Now, there's a lot of factors that came into play on that last one. They went to bunch set to the right, and he was able to make a break up when he went out in this flat route. And his IDs had, I think there's like 7.1 seconds or something like that left on the clock, and they only had 1 or 2 yards left to go on the first down. So a first down could have stopped the clock for him there. He could have got out of bounds and left them one more play, and because it was 3rd down, and he was able to make a good break, come up and stop Munoz in his tracks, and then he was pulling him backwards a little bit, and Munoz was fighting to get out of bounds. And by time he did, I don't know if he ever actually did, but his forward momentum was stopped. He was kind of going backwards. I just don't know where that forward progress actually was with the chains. But Cam Nickel had great pursuit from the inside to kind of clean up on that play. And when it was over, the clock said 0, and we were fortunate enough to come out with a good win, a good team win.
Good team win, got you a first-round playoff game, and we'll get to that here in a little bit too. With this Metamore team, you're on a 5-game winning streak, the same as Decatur MacArthur. And your kids have been, they talk about how explosive they've been. Your kids have been just as explosive, and they've been playing some very, very good football. The thing that I like most about it is, it's almost like there's a new hero every week. Jadon's been consistent. Evan Kyle's been very, very good for you. Your 2 receivers, Bidney and Shaffron, have been outstanding. So your kids have all been playing well. Your offensive line is really starting to come together. They made some gaping goals. You got to remember something. That's a Dunlap defense that only gave up 2 offensive touchdowns to Washington. And your kids scored 4.
Yep, and they're a good team, and we knew that we'd have to be ready in order to play them. They've been pretty stout against the run. I thought there's unsung heroes, things that don't show up in the stat books, but I thought a guy like Marshall Vasquez blocked really, really well for us from his H position, and he kind of stepped up. He's one of those seniors that you talk about. But there's a guy that just continues to go out and do his job, play in, play out, and just goes to the whistle. And, he's one of our senior captains for a reason, because he's put in that hard work. And, he's a model of the consistency that you're talking about with some of those guys like Rhodes, Shaffron, Bidney, Jadon, Kyle, and those guys. But,
Nick Rhodes.
Yep, Nick Rhodes. Those guys up front have done a wonderful job, and I thought Marshall really stood out this week with his blocking.
Yeah, he has been a big part of your offense, and your run game, I'd say since the Morton game, has really evolved and really started to take off, and you're going to need that in the playoffs. You win. I've always said the team in the playoff that runs the ball the best wins.
Yep. And we're always going to have to win in the trenches, and we depend on the offensive line and the defensive line for that, because they got to set the tone. Sometimes, when you start playing playoff football, you don't know what the weather's going to be like. You don't know whether it's going to turn to. And so you're going to have to be able to own that line of scrimmage, hopefully on both sides. And, sometimes with, the weapons we have in the backfield, sometimes you just need a little bit of a crease, and they'll be able to find a little lane to bounce in or lane to cut back in, or, with how our offensive line has been gelling, sometimes it's just right where it's supposed to be. And so they've all done a really good job. Thing is, those yards are going to get tougher and tougher to come by in the playoffs, and that's how it should be. I thought that was a testament to our kids against Dunlap, is that they just took it one play at a time. We had some negative plays, but they just kept going and going and realized, hey, not everything's going to be a 10, 15-yard gain. We're going to have to grind it out. And, the one thing that I was impressed was we had some third and longs and fourth and longs, and we were able to make plays when it mattered. And that just showed a lot about our, the guts that our kids have.
I thought there was, in that final drive, there was one really big play. It was a 4th and I believe 10. And Bidney went down the field about 12, 13 yards and turned around. And Rhodes put it up high where only his receiver could go get it. But so often you see it in college games. You see it in the pros where the receivers don't go far enough. They're a yard short. And there's no 5th down in football, so he had to make sure he went plenty deep enough. And if he had to come back to get the ball, he was still going to be deep enough. And he did. He completed it, and it kept our drive alive. There was a lot of big plays, especially that final drive. That you got the ball, I think, with about 8 minutes and 17 seconds to go in the game, and you had Ryan Vogelcall. He said, "We need a slow, methodical, metamorph football drive." He got a slow, methodical, metamorph football drive.
And you're talking about that Bidney play. It's a good thing of our kids, staying with the play. And we talked about, playing to the whistle earlier. Like, it wasn't designed to go to Bidney on that particular play. Nick Rhodes was able to scramble a little bit when some protection broke down on that particular play. And, those two were always out throwing in the summertime. They know each other really well. And Nick had plenty of faith in Connor. Just put it where it needs to be. And Connor has great hands, and I was able to extend that drive later on in the game when we were heading south. We had another big play, and Matt Munoz was in great position on Sheffrin, and Sheffrin kind of just plucked it from over him, and that kept the drive alive. And so there was a lot of great individual plays that made the team successful, and those were just some of them. And then that last drive, there was plays made throughout, and it was just a play that I think it slowed down for our kids. Even though you're down by a point, it's 21-20, and you just see them motoring down the field. Everything just seemed to be in slow motion. Nobody was in a rush. They just kept getting up and doing their business, almost like, hey, we got this. No use panicking. Let's just take it down. Offensive line said, let's put it on our shoulders and let's go.
Your football team, your football program is in a very healthy state right now. You got a freshman team, showed a lot of promise, but they finished 6-3, 5-4.
Yeah, and then those guys made great strides.
Yes.
They had some hiccups along the way, but there's been a lot of good teams that came through Metamora that finished 5-4. I know my freshman team did. We were 5-4 as freshmen, and when you start to grow, when you start to hit the weight room and stuff like that, good things happen as long as that that group sticks together and they buy in and they get after it up in the weight room, and they have to grow as an individual, and that's going to help the team grow. And so those guys, you saw the strides they made throughout the season. I mean, they made some great strides, and so it was nice to see. They had some plays that could go either way throughout their season as well. The JV team was able to finish out on a high note against Bloomington
6-3
on week 9, and so those guys really started to put it together. You have guys like Jaden Lambert, it was just a workhorse. Defensively, you have guys like Will Mishler coming along, and he made great strides. He probably thought we were crazy when we moved him to outside linebacker from a DB this year, but man, that's just one guy that's just been coachable all year long, and because of his play, you can't keep him off special teams. And there he was,
big play
Monday night. Or I'm sorry, on Friday night,
big play on
special teams, and he's just been doing that. JV guys like Sam Barbarinas coming off the edge. Riley Blue doing a great job up front, and the list can go on and on.
Yeah.
And you can sit here and name off 1,000 kids, but those guys collectively came together. And they had some games that could have gone either way. They had their Pekin game that was low scoring and ended up being given up a late score late in that game. But LaSalle Peru is the same way, and so just a couple plays here and there can turn your season one way or the other. And with a lot of hard work in the off season, like we said, you make your own luck, and next year, those can be flip-flopped, and maybe they'll go in our favor.
Yeah, your freshman team, I think they lost 4 ball games, and all 4, I think 2 were overtime, and the other 2 were 1 or 2 score differences. And I think there's a lot there in your underclass teams to build on. And you're right. These kids, hopefully they'll buy into it, and they'll be able to make some big strides. And that's what keeps good programs good year after year after year. You're not a one and done, and you have to play for every 3rd or 4th year you'll have a good team. You want to be good every single year. And that's kind of how you lined your team up, your program up.
Yeah, and Coach Kurt has done a very good job of laying the foundation for those freshmen. And then, they graduate up to, Coach Keysweater. And Coach Keysweater does a phenomenal job with those guys. And, with him on defense, with Coach Otto, Coach Simmons kind of leading the way on offense. And, Coach Keysweater just has a calm about him that those guys just respond to. And so when you see him get excited, he's just as competitive as the next guy, that's for sure. But he's a great teacher of the game. And to have somebody like that leading the JV team, it truly is a luxury to have. And, he has a knack for getting those guys ready for the varsity level, whether it's defensively or whether it's Coach Otto and Coach Simmons offensively. Those guys have been well groomed, and they're ready to make that next step.
While we take a break, and when we come back, we'll have the Germantown Grille player of the game, and we'll talk a little bit about your playoff opponent, Decatur MacArthur, and we'll see what your thoughts are on the Generals.
Yep.
Central Illinois, you asked for it and we listened. Germantown Grille is growing to meet customer demand, adding more dining space and a private gaming area featuring games powered by Gold Rush, the gold standard in video gaming. And Germantown Grille still has all the food and spirits that keep our customers coming back. Stop by to check out our daily specials. The game's on at Germantown Grille, where Central Illinois loves to eat. Open 7 days a week, just off Route 116.
Welcome back to the Grebner Show. Coach, Germantown Grille, player of the game. We talked about this a little bit. We're going to go with Cam Nickel. You just mentioned he had double-digit tackles. He had a big interception. He had a quarterback sack. He's kind of been your cornerstone, your bell cow on your defensive side.
Yep. Last year he played there as a sophomore on the inside. We experimented a little bit this summer with playing him on the outside. Sometimes I think he feels a little bit more comfortable out there. He's good in space. But at the end of the day, we moved him back inside. He can play both. And he's really developed a knack for finding the windows, for chasing down quarterbacks, just having a knack of where to be. We talked about him making that interception. I think he said that was the first interception he's ever had in his life.
Hard to believe, isn't it?
And that's the thing is, what a great time to have it too. I'll take that. But he's been, our leader on the field. And Marshall has been kind of our glue guy. He makes all the calls and stuff. He's kind of our field general out there. Cam's made a lot of plays for us at that linebacking position. And so we lean on him to make some plays, when we need him, along with a lot of other guys. But he's been able to step up in some big moments, like we said, and he has a motor that just doesn't stop. He just one from the other, and whether it's in traffic or whether it's out in the open space, he finds a way to get it done.
Yeah, I thought Friday night he was outstanding. When you needed a big play, he made some big plays. And, the biggest play of the game, your son and Cam Nichols combined. And, the best part about that whole little scenario there where they stopped Munoz both those guys are back next year.
Yeah, it's always nice knowing that you're going to be getting some guys back. We'll worry about that next year. We got plenty to worry about this week. It was a good team win.
Outstanding team win
against Dunlap. A reason to celebrate. We always say, winning in football is hard. Celebrate each win with your teammates. Enjoy it. Enjoy one another. And then come Monday, we always look at the film with one another, and then we get ready for next week. And this week we have the Generals of MacArthur.
Yep, that brings us to that game, the first round playoff game. It's their second season. You drew the Generals out of the Central State 8. 2 weeks ago they beat SHG 45-28, I believe the score was. They're a very formidable opponent. They come in with a nice, I believe his name's France, the quarterback. Very good quarterback, big kid.
Yeah.
You can throw the ball a little bit. They're one of those teams that you can stop them first down, you can stop them second down, and third down they come up with a 20-yard pass play or a 20-yard run play, and they've got a running back in I believe it's Mason Johnson Cook.
Mason, I believe.
Mason Johnson Cook. He's only a freshman, but he doesn't look like a freshman.
No, he doesn't run like a freshman either. They have weapons all over the place. Offensively, try and take one thing away, they can exploit another area. Their quarterback can run it. He can sling it all over the place. You mentioned the running back. Not only is he quick, but he's powerful too. He's about 6'3", 205, I think is what you find on the roster and stuff like that. When you do a little bit of research, then they have guys on the perimeter that they can get the ball to. They're the guys that they can turn a 5-yard hitch into a 70-yard gain, and all of a sudden it's a touchdown, where they can just blow the top off. And so it's like, all right, you got to pick your poison, and what's it going to be? But I think our kids are going to be up to the challenge. From their defense perspective, they have some great guys in the secondary. It's going to be a challenge for us. Like I said, we're going to be up to the challenge. They have a defensive line that really gets after it. The running back also plays linebacker for him, and he can run like a deer.
Yeah.
And so we're going to have our hands full. The kids know that, and that's how it's supposed to be in the playoffs, though. And so it's not surprising to us that we're going to have to play a good team, because you expect to play good teams in the playoffs, and this week is no different. And so we're going to be ready. Our kids have been practicing hard, and they're ready to get after it.
The thing that I remember most about Gator MacArthur is a few years ago, I believe it was 2016, I went over and watched a first round playoff game between MacArthur and Peoria Central, and MacArthur put up 72 points and lost by 4 touchdowns.
That game was just, it's like a track meet just going, you just look like sprinters just going back and forth. And so they can put up points, like we just mentioned earlier. They have weapons all over the field, and it doesn't matter if it's first down, second down, third down. They're dangerous, whether they're 90 yards away or whether they're 10 yards away from the end zone. And so we're going to have to be really gap disciplined. We're going to have to tackle really well. Those are going to be some keys to the game. And, we're going to have to, grind it out. Like we said earlier against Dunlap, not every play is going to be 10 yards. We're going to have some negative plays. They have a defensive lineman that's, got a scholarship to Eastern Illinois for a reason, because he's a good ball player. Sure. And so, he's going to be an impact player, but we have impact players on our team as well. And so we're looking forward to this matchup on Saturday.
It's always a very special thing to have a home playoff game at Malone Field. I've always thought there's just a different feel about that, especially when you get up in the morning on a Saturday morning and you drive through town. There's just a different feel. And, I'm really looking forward to that. That's always, to me, one of the really neat things about high school sports, and when you come from a small town, and these games are so special and so big for that small town, that makes that game has a little bit more of an edge to it.
Yeah, these Saturday playoff games, you can't ask for anything more, especially when they're on Malone Field. The leaves start to drop this time of year.
Yeah.
You see, it seems like the wind starts to blow a little bit more, and those leaves are blowing across the field, and there's just a lot of great memories out there on Malone Field from those Saturday playoff games. And so we want to make a lot more memories this Saturday and keep it going. Like I said, we'll be ready to play at 1 o'clock, and we're looking forward to the matchup. I know MacArthur's going to be looking forward to the matchup, and they'll be ready to play. But to get another game on Malone Field, that's always a goal, is to make sure you get more games at home than what you're supposed to.
Yeah.
These kids have handled their business so far. They've done that, and we'll be ready to go. It'll be nice to hopefully break in Malone Field and its new turf with a nice playoff victory on Saturday. But it's not going to come easy. We're going to have to play well.
Don't let Kurt Ryan get on the field with a mower.
That's right.
But I'm looking forward to it because I know it's going to be a good game. This is going to be a very good opponent, and hopefully we can come out with a W. And it'll be. You're right. The playoffs are always supposed to be, nail biters. They're supposed to be. And we talked about how last week's game against Dunlap was the first round of a playoffs because we needed to win that game to get a home game, and it was a nail biter. You got the win, and now you could say this is a pseudo round 2 now. You got to get a win to keep advancing, and this is going to be a formidable opponent. They're from the Central State 8, so they're battle tested.
Yeah, Central State 8. People can compare that to the Middle Illini. They have some really good teams that are going to test you week in, week out. Middle Illini has some really good teams. You can tell that by the seeds in the playoffs that people are getting, and so both teams have played a lot of playoff teams. Both teams are tested, and both teams are going to be ready to go on Saturday.
Well, Coach, good luck. Hopefully bring home a W.
Thank you very much.
We'll see you Saturday at Malone Field at 1 o'clock.